What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Mini TV Reviews. I am your host, Mo, and today we're going to be discussing A Reasonable Doubt. That's right, y'all. This is Season 3, Episode 4, titled Friend or Foe. Wasn't that a show, y'all? I feel like that was a show in the early 2000s or late 90s. Anywho, that's not why y'all are here. We're here to discuss this episode. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your weekend. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the synopsis real quick, and then we're going to get right into the episode. So the synopsis for this one is, as jury selection begins, Jax and her team uncover threats from Ozzie's past and present, and Jax and Lewis must deal with repercussions of past actions. All right, y'all, this episode was a hot diggity dog mess, but it was good, okay? So let's go ahead and get into it. So this episode opens with Jax and Daniel doing a little pop-up visit on Kristen early one morning when she confirms that Wendy was keeping Ozzie clean as best as she could, okay? She ended up telling them that, Ozzie hadn't done any drugs in the last, 2-3 years, whatever, since he was with Wendy. However, he did relapse that night that she and him had an argument. She ended up flying off the handle this one time that she found some coke in his bag, okay? He had been doing pretty good aside from that. But once she found that, she was like, look, Ozzie, this is enough. So he got his act together and he was fine. Now, she also admits that she did give him the drugs the other day when he almost OD'd, but it was because of all the mess surrounding him legally right now, okay? But she swears up and down that she hadn't given him any aside from that instance. I don't think I believe that, y'all. I don't think that this was just the one and done. So somebody else must have been giving him those drugs the night that Wendy went missing. It wasn't her. That's all she got to say. So she ends up giving him the name of this old supplier named Byron, along with the promise that she try to get them some more information along with Byron's number. Okay? So hopefully they'll be able to get in contact with Byron sometime soon. So as they're leaving, Jax ends up telling Daniel to look into sister a little bit more, just dig a little bit deeper because she's clearly hiding something. Yeah, she lying about something. And y'all, while they were there, Jax was completely oblivious to how Daniel was acting. Daniel was acting all types of weird and stuck, y'all. He just been smelling her hair and looking at her face, and he sprung already, y'all. He ain't even got none. Jax is completely unaware of what's going on. Y'all think Daniel gonna be able to keep it together if they do mess around? Yeah, these lines is finna get real blurry, y'all. Real blurry. Speaking of popping up, though, Bill is able to make us a little bit more progress with Kendra, it seems, because he done popped up on her with these flowers. And so he was like, yeah, I remember you like this particular flower. And she was like, actually, my favorite is peonies. So he had popped up on her because he thought today was his anniversary. Y'all, he was a day late. A day late and a few excuses short of her giving a damn. She don't care nothing about that. Now, it's supposed to be his weekend to take the kids, and while he did want to tell her, that I love you, girl, I recognize that it's our anniversary, here's these flowers and all that, she feels like he had an ulterior motive for bringing them flowers over, because what Bill really wanted was to see if she was going to be able to take them kids back a little early Sunday. Okay? I'm working this big case. I got a lot of pressure going on. I still got to do this. I got to do that. And she was like, and me too. I got a brief to write. And I got to spend the last 2 hours of my night getting your kids to bed by myself. And he was like, well, you shouldn't have to do it by yourself. If you would just let me back in the house. I really need to know what happened between them. We need some more backstory. And we need it like within the next episode or two. So anywho, Lewis is at work, and he gets word from one of his clients that the product they had received was the wrong coding. Okay, so it turns out that, oh boy, Sam, yeah, so he got called into the principal's office because, what's up? Okay, the people is calling me saying that they got the wrong coding from you, but you were supposed to be able to compute all of this stuff and put it in the design. And he was like, oh, yeah, my bad. So when I told you that I was proficient in that what I really meant was I'm not. That C plus plus, that CC plus is really, really hard. It is really hard for me to grasp the concept of that. Okay. But if you just give me a little bit of time, I'ma do it off the books. No extra credit required. Okay. I'm just gonna do this and I'm gonna get it together. My homeboy is teaching me what I need to know right now. So just give me a little bit of time and I promise you, I got you. I got you, man. So Lewis was like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm gonna give you a little bit of time. Okay, you can work on it. You're gonna have to stay later. You may have to work on the weekends, unpaid, of course, because you told me that you had this down. And he was like, man, thank you for the opportunity. From one black man to another. Thank you for not letting me go. Hold on to what you got, y'all. So Jax and her team are at the office and they're talking strategy, right? So now they're hoping that they can track down this Byron guy because Daniel's attempts to get a hold of him have been null and void. Okay, he don't like listening to voicemails. He don't respond to text messages. He don't answer unknown numbers. He don't do none of that. So it's going to be really hard to get him on the stand and try to testify because their theory is that Ozzie was with him that night getting high all night. And so after him and Wendy had got to arguing, he called Byron over so they could get high while Wendy went to go to the cabin to cool off. And that's where she unfortunately ran into some rando who's been robbing. It's been a string of robberies that have been plaguing that area up there by the cabin. So this is when she unfortunately ran into that person that robbed and killed her. Okay, so Ozzie didn't have nothing to do with that. And so after they ended up getting what they wanted out of her purse, they tossed it on the side of the highway. And so Crystal was like, okay, that seems pretty convincing to me. I could see some reasonable doubt off, and I could see him possibly getting off with that. But Jax is not satisfied. She feels like there's more to the story, like there's abuse and drugs, and somehow that played a part in what happened to Wendy. So she was like, hold on, I'll be right back. So she ended up leaving, and she went to go grab homegirl Susan from accounting. And so she ended up asking Susan what she thought about Ozzie. And she was like, oh, I watched a couple of episodes of my cousin and them, a long time ago or whatever. But then I saw that video of him and Wendy arguing. And I started to think differently about him. And so she was like, okay, Susan, well, what if I told you that there was a reason for why he was doing what he was doing? If I told you that he was abused when he was a child, sexually abused, that is, by somebody who was older who took advantage of him, what would you say then? And so just by hearing all of this, y'all, she starts to get teary-eyed. Okay, so now they know that this is going to be the game that they need to play. This is going to be the narrative that they need to spin, this tragic story that is Ozzie's life, who's been traumatized by abuse and drug use from a very early age, a very impressionable age too. So it all sounds good. I think this is how we're gonna do it. Now, she also says that because of the abuse, that there's possibly somebody else out there that's been holding on to this secret with Ozzie that would be willing to kill Wendy if she knew about it and was threatening to let the secret out. And so that was like, okay, we could see that. So all seems like it's coming together as far as how we're going to present this thing in court. But that's going to be a wrap for tonight because I got things to do. Jax ends up getting a text from Lewis, y'all. Yeah, he sent the text. The girl, it's gonna be some grown people time before Naima get home text. Okay, so she was like, okay, cool, bet, say less. So she ended up going to the house, got all lathered up, got a cute little lingerie on and all of that. And she's sending pictures and he like, damn, girl, I'm finna crash because you look so good, So he get in there, they do their thing, and then they talking. And talking about, if they're going to be able to do this once they get a little bit older. He was like, well, we should be able to, because Naima going to be out here. It ain't like they really paying attention to her no way, as is. They don't even know that they got kids. With the way that they be acting. So he was like, yeah, Naima will be out of here in a few years. But we can try to go ahead and get a round 2 in real quick before she get home. It's too late. So Naima come through the door. And y'all can hear her on the phone. So they hurry up and put their clothes on, and they go out try to talk to her. Y'all, she slammed the door in their face. So Jax was like, I know this. Naima, you got every second that I count. That's how many days you gonna be on punishment. So yo, she got the 3 like she was the Tootsie Roll man, like the owl on the Tootsie Roll commercial. And when she opened up the door, y'all, Naima had the baby jersey. Talking about why you ain't tell me that you was sleeping with my best friend mama and got her pregnant. It's time to have a discussion. Y'all thought that y'all was gonna wait. So instead of them, because I don't know how much time lapsed in between, but the next scene that we see is of Naima and Spencer. Spencer has rejoined the ranks, y'all. He done came home. Now, I don't know if this was an early going away party for him for the semester or, the break or whatever, but he is here. And them parents don't have nothing to say. And I mean, honestly, Jax don't really have to take the floor on this one. This is all Lewis's mess up. This is all his fault. See, while both of y'all was doing y'all's thing, y'all was grown, out there living life. That's fine. That's cool. However you want to do it, that's fine. But what you're not going to do is bring a baby back in this house. That's what Jax didn't do. So Lewis is looking to his left at Jax like, a little help here. And she was like, nah, Ninja, you got this one on your own. Now, they ended up offering up some half-ass apology about, things just happened and we're sorry that we didn't tell you. We were just trying to find the right time to tell y'all together. But the thing is, that's not even the issue with Naima. The issue with Naima is that, Daddy, you lied to me in my face. As I told you, while me and my bestie were no longer friends, you sat there and you said nothing. When you could have offered up some sort of explanation. It didn't even have to be an elaborate one. It didn't even have to be like this whole thesis on why you did what you did. Relationships get sticky. They get very complicated. But you should have said something, Lewis. You had the opportunity, and that's why Naima is pissed. And she was like, you know what? I really don't think that y'all want this family. Like, y'all not for real. Y'all can't be for real about wanting to be a family. So she get up and she walk off. And then he was like, Spence was like, well, it's good to be back. I'm glad I got to come home early. And I was like, damn, Lewis, where did you hide the jersey at? You got to be the worst person at hide and seek. You got to be the worst person to play I Spy with. Because what? Did you leave the jersey on the kitchen counter? Where did she even find that at? You should have had that somewhere really, really, really tucked away until you decided to find the time to explain what you and your wife did. Y'all, I can't with them. Lewis should have said something. And it's very apparent that Naima has a closer relationship with Lewis just because Lewis has always been the one at home with Naima majority of the time. Jax is away majority of the time. So she's going to naturally gravitate to her dad. But the fact that he done lied to her too, oh yeah, that's definitely a betrayal. She damn near don't like her mama already. She can't stand her mama. But you too? Yeah, no. So, at the office, Jackson ends up having a conversation with Ozzie about his abuse possibly becoming a part of their defense strategy. And He was like, you know what, see, this is where I stop you because that was not supposed to be a part of the plan, ma'am. You know, he wants to leave all of that part off the record. But Jax explains that not only could this possibly be what gets you off, but this will free you. This will help heal you mentally and emotionally. And so she starts to go on and on about, how you don't have to live in the shame and the embarrassment. Somebody took advantage of you clearly when you were younger. You didn't know any better. You were too young to understand what was truly happening. And so she ends up telling him, I went through my own thing. I went through my own situation where I was abused, and fortunately, I've healed and I've gone to therapy and I've been able to get past it. And this is how she's able to gain a little bit more of his trust. And then she also tells him that her abuser no longer has any power over her. And so with that, he seems to be a little bit more open to the idea, but first they have to tell his parents. So they end up going to court and they start the voir dire process. And Jax seems to have a pretty good handle on the jurors that she wants for this case. We know that she has a particular person or type of juror that she wants to make sure is sitting in the podium over there listening to the case, as well as the prosecutor. The prosecutor is doing a pretty good job of trying to make sure that he has the jurors that fit his narrative that he wants to tell as well. So we'll see how it goes. So after court is adjourned for the day, she ends up heading to dinner with the girls. And it's been a long time, y'all. It's been a long time since she met with the girls. But I was like, damn, Jax. It's still F them kids, huh? Apparently. Because it seems like you just told the kids the other day about the baby. And here you are with the girlies. Here you are just kind of like hanging out, just chilling with them. Like you don't have a care in the world. Like you ain't got no kids at home that have just recently heard some of the most traumatizing news of their life thus far. And you can't offer up no good explanation to them, but you out here kicking it with your homegirls. Make it make sense. But either way, we're here now. So they're at dinner and, everybody's just excited to see everybody catch up. And so we start going around the table giving updates, and Jax gives them an update about the baby and how they had to break it to the kids, and the kids found out unexpectedly when they weren't ready to, and it was just a whole mess. And then Autumn was like, well, speaking of babies, because they were figuring to take a shot, she was like, yeah, I'm going to hold out on that because I'm pregnant. She's definitely expecting, and she's further along, thankfully. Now, we remember last season, last season, she was trying her and her wife for a child. However, they weren't able to conceive, but it seems like everything is going to be able to come through this time. So congratulations to Autumn. And so they end up taking their shot, and we find out that Sally is divorcing from Chris. Okay. Now, I guess Chris went ahead and put his foot down when it came to letting her go because she decided to put the house up for Chanel's collateral, as far as her bill goes. And Chanel is just chilling. Okay. She done had enough excitement to last her a lifetime. And so Chanel and Autumn end up going to the restroom real quick. So while they're gone, Sally ends up revealing to Jax that her and Chris are still busting it down. Yeah, they still having romps or whatever, little secret rendezvous, but it's a little bit different. It's a lot better because they're having angry sex. Okay? And so Jax was like, girl, are you sure that you're the only person that he messing with? Because, I mean, I know y'all going through this divorce and all, so... But if y'all still busting it down like this, does that potentially mean that y'all might be getting back together? You better be careful, girl, because he might not be you might not be the only one that he messing with. And so she was like, nah, Trick. Now I know you not talking. You got some sort of nerve. Look at the pot calling the kettle all shades of black. What do you mean? Make sure that I'm the only one. And so, y'all, I thought that was playing at first. I thought they had some little banter going on, that was a little playful, but turns out they were pretty serious, y'all. Jax ended up calling Sally an old hoe. While Sally ended up telling her that she's just jealous. See, every time somebody seem like they in a good spot, then you want to say something negative. Okay? Why you always got to be so negative about somebody coming up, about somebody having a positive spot in their life, Jax, huh? So just as they're in the heat of the argument, y'all, Autumn and Chanel come back from the bathroom and they hurry up and switch the subject like the argument never even happened in the first place. Talk about some fake friendship. I was like, what are y'all so upset about? Because you was the one that put your house up for collateral and nobody told you to do that. Right? So I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Sally always, to me, she always seemed like she always got something to gripe about. She always got something negative going on. So anyway, Jax is definitely not the right person to try to tell her anything because, girl, you was landing low and spreading it real wide for the last 2 seasons. You just now starting to get on a good foot. So ain't neither one of them got room to talk, but I digress. So Jax comes back to see Lewis working. And they discuss the situation that's going on with Sam. And so she ends up warning him, hey, you need to be careful. Okay, because while you still trying to be out here, be all helping hands with your new employee, you know, he could be taking advantage of him while you trying to pull him up. Both of y'all could end up falling down. While you trying to make sure that he's straight, you gonna end up getting caught up yourself. And next thing you know, both of y'all finna be unemployed. So be careful. He was like, yeah, you're right. So they end up talking about Eddie. And, when do they feel like it's the right time to try to introduce him to the kids? Because we don't want this to be another situation about Jaden and Tony and all of that. So we got to figure this out pretty soon. And so he was like, okay, that's fine. So Jax ends up telling him, okay, well, let's just do it when I feel a little bit more safe about it. He was like, okay, that sounds like a good plan to them. So we'll put a pin in it for now. So Ozzie ends up having his parents come over so he could update them about the game plan that Jax has put in place for his defense strategy. And this is when he reveals his abuse to them. So Jax is sort of kind of like off in the corner, kind of just like listening. And y'all, that mama was hurt. She had no clue what was going on with him. That dad, I'm not so sure about. If he had inklings, he didn't say anything to the mama, that's for sure. Because as soon as Ozzie said something about it, she was like, oh, was it that makeup artist? I knew it was. But Ozzie never said a name. He never said a name. And so, they end up telling him, why didn't you say anything to us a long time ago when this first started happening? He was like, I didn't feel like you guys would believe me if I came to you. And so, of course, they reassure him that we would have believed you had you said something then. We believe you now, but had you said something then, we still would have believed you. And we would have resolved the issue. We would have handled it. And so Ozzie, feels comforted in knowing that his parents care about him. And like I said, Jax is over there sitting in the corner. And I'm sure that she's processing what's happening with him. And it's great. I'm sure she's happy for him. However, I do feel like she's comparing this to what happened to her and how quickly her mom dismissed her claims of abuse against Paul. So it's just sad, y'all. It is really sad. I'm glad that mama is seemingly turning the corner, because it seemed like she was just so cold. So I didn't know how she was going to, react to this news. But I'm glad she came up on it on the right side. Speaking of Jax's that mama. Y'all, I have not liked the way that she been moving since she came on this show. And she still never ceases to piss me off. Y'all, she babysitting the kids when old Eddie pops up. Old addict Eddie. And quickly convinces her, because he's at the door, quickly convinces her to let him in to see them kids. Now, before she let him in, she had said, Eddie, why you popping up here? You know me and you done had this conversation that we wanted to wait till Jax gave you the thumbs up before you could be introduced to the kids. And he was like, man, damn all that. Just disrespectful, just breaking all sort of boundaries. Like, and the mama continues to allow this to happen. Y'all, it's so irritating because Jax done did all this work to try to heal from her trauma that her parents done caused her, and they still find ways to create more stress for her by continuing to say, F your boundaries and your feelings. We don't care about none of that because we gonna do what we want to do. We gonna neglect you. We gonna, disappear. We gonna hurt you. Like, and then we're just gonna pop up like nothing happened. And we're going to continue to do what we want to do to get our way in spite of your feelings and how you feel about your family and the security and the sanctity of your family. Y'all, I'm so tired of her daddy. I'm tired of her mama too. He literally just got here and I'm ready for him to go. So he ends up coming in because Nyman was like, who are you talking to, Grandma? So he find his way to come on in. He's slick like a salesman, like a greasy salesman. And the kids is pissed because the last we heard, we didn't know nothing about you. We didn't even know that you was out here still alive. The last thing that we heard from our mama was that you abandoned her when she needed you the most. And he was like, yeah, I was out there addicted to drugs and here come grandmama. But Eddie, he was like, no. I'll admit to my shortcomings. Why are you trying to protect this man? You done already made enough excuses for him. So Spence was finna get ready to hold him to task, y'all. He held him to task initially, but then Naima was over there doing the TikTok. She was trying to record a TikTok with Grandma, and so he saw the whole setup, and he was like, hey, what you got going on over here? So she showed him the dancing just like that, y'all, and with a bribe of $20 to let him know when Jax was on the way back. Grandpa Eddie was in there. Just slick, y'all. I can't stand. Manipulative. Just completely disregarding anybody else's feelings. You just walking through life just doing what you want to do without a care in the world. So at work, Lewis gets caught up with old Sam again because he's in there talking to I don't know if that's his boss or his partner. I think that's his boss. It's gotta be. And his boss is pissed because the people that was complaining about getting the wrong product, they still got the wrong product. Sam didn't fix it. And so now he's talking to Lewis like, hey man, did you know what this was happening? This needs to be handled. And not only that, but they also found out that Sam had signed like a non-compete clause, with a different company. And so this non-compete clause, say that a whole bunch of times, is supposed to be in effect for like 8 weeks after he ends up leaving this place. Well, apparently the 8 weeks is not up before he ended up coming over there to them. So it seems like somebody let it slip through the cracks. Didn't do their due diligence. Didn't call the place to see if there was something happening. They just let him on in. And so they end up calling Sam into the office. And he was like, hey man, what's going on with the non-compete clause? And he was like, oh yeah, you know what? That must have slipped my mind. I thought the 8 weeks had passed already. Fool, you know when 2 months done passed. I thought the 8 weeks had passed, already. It must have slipped my mind. My bad. It won't happen again. And so because Lewis is like in the room with the boss, like you have to handle this accordingly. Lewis was like, hey man, so that's not going to be acceptable. We got to let you go. And so then this is when Sam gets really grimy, gets really slimy, and brings up the fact that he's been working to try to get this C+ coding down. He's been working off the clock, extra time with no pay in order to get this down. But you said that you had this down before you came over here. That was the whole point of me hiring you. And so now that he done brought this up to Big Boss Man is looking at Lewis like, what the hell? Why did you hire him? And so Sam is threatening to, I don't know, maybe sue the company for unpaid time while he's supposed to be working to try to improve his coding skills. Yeah, so Big Boss was like, you know what, Sam, don't even worry about it. We'll figure it out with HR. And so he ends up leaving and looking at Lewis like, and what? So then Big Boss Man is looking at Lewis like, hey man, that is not the appropriate moves that you need to be making if you're going to be a leader. If you're going to be a leader in this company, you need to be moving accordingly, because you definitely, that was not it, Lewis. Yeah, no. This the last time you try to help a ninja succeed. Just straight up. Just straight up on the principle alone, because Lewis, his heart was in the right place, y'all. His heart was in the right place. He just don't have the spine to just let it go. So anyway, Jax comes home, and she's speaking with her mama about the kids and how they did while she was gone. And then I think she said something about, Jax was saying how she knew what had happened, and her mom was like, oh really? And she was like, yeah, I know the kids had told you about what happened with Tony. And so Jax is not aware of the fact that the kids have met with Eddie just yet. But her mom is definitely acting super cagey. Again, Jax is wrapped up in her own head and her own world. She hardly even notices her mama's behavior. But either way, her mama was like, girls, speaking of daddies, have you talked to your father yet? Because when are we gonna make this happen? He said he still hadn't heard from you. Why are you taking so long, Jacqueline? And so she was like, yeah, I know, Mama. I'll get back to him, whatever. I just been busy. And she's basically trying to speed up this process. And I'm like, yeah, he's got to be terminally ill to some capacity. Because, girl, what? I know you not this thirsty for a man. This man done abandoned you and your child, and you so quick to take him back. So Daniel and Kristen are watching YouTube videos, and I believe it's of Tony Talks. Y'all, he's hilarious. I love his little skits. But anywho, they watching these YouTube videos, and they getting real cozy on the couch. And so he ends up telling her that Byron, yeah, he wasn't much help aside from confirming that Ozzie usually does not get high solo dolo. Okay, but the night that all of that happened with Wendy, he definitely was not there. But now it's a matter of finding who was there. Who was it? Well, nobody knows. We're going to have to figure that out. So in the process, she also mentions how, Ozzie wasn't always, he's always been super introverted. Okay, despite the person that you see on TV, despite the character that he played, he's always been uber quiet. As a matter of fact, he's usually so introverted that he writes all of his feelings down in his journals. And so Daniel was like, does he still do that? Now, in the process of her revealing this big news, here comes Ozzie busting up the love connection. And he was like, what y'all doing in here? Why y'all so close? And so he was like, you know what, Daniel? Clearly reading the room and picking up on the, the chemistry between the two of them. He was like, hey, so, I don't need you to play babysitter to me anymore. You are relieved of your duties. And so as Daniel leaves, the doctor quickly follows behind him, and he tells Ozzie on his way out the door, yeah, so you're going to need some medical marijuana or something like that to help you cope with the anxiety and the cravings to do bigger drugs. And so doctor's out the door. Now, while Jax is wrapping up jury selection, Daniel is able to locate Ozzie's journals while Kristen is gone. So it turns out that she's somewhere stuck in another part of California for an hour. And so he pretends like he left one of his notebooks or something there pertaining to Ozzie's case, and he needs to get back in. So she tells him where Ozzie always keeps the spare key. And he gets back in and he finds the journals. Of course, they're obviously up under the bed because where else would you hide them? Ozzie, you are so childlike. He is still stuck in a child's mentality. Why are you hiding that important stuff up under your bed? So while he's gaining access to these journals, y'all, Lewis is finally putting his foot down with Sam. He done called him back into the office for a second time this episode. And he was like, hey, so, yeah, them people, the coding is still wrong. You got to the end of the business day since you've been working so hard off the clock with your homeboy that's teaching you the coding skills. You got to the end of the day to get the codes right. No errors. Because if not, that's your ass, Mr. Postman. And so Sam was like, oh, it's like that? Yes, like that. And I think Sam might be going to the unemployment line. What y'all think? So it's good that Lewis put his foot down there. However, later on in this episode, he gets his ass handed to him. So at home, the kids end up revealing that not only did they meet Grandpa Eddie, but that he ain't too bad either. It helps them understand a lot more about the family dynamics. Helps us understand a lot more about you, Mama. It's given that their grandmama did some excessive pillow talking. Because what? Why does he know all of this stuff about what's going on within our family when you ain't even been here? So Lewis is pissed. Big man. And so him and Jax end up excusing themselves to go have a conversation. And Jax sees this as a silver lining. You know, they said that they're not as upset with us anymore. We don't have to be held accountable for their feelings anymore. Sounds like a win-win to me. Maybe this could help speed up the healing process so we can enjoy this new phase of life with Grandpa Eddie. So accepting, Jax. That therapy seems to be working really well for you. Lewis ain't there yet. He was like, are you kidding me? So you just gonna let this man just waltz back in here after he done been gone all this time? With no sort of repercussions? You clearly had a line drawn in the sand and he stepped all over there. As a matter of fact, he got rid of that line. He just stuck his shoe all in the sand and wiggled it all around like the hokey pokey. What are we talking about? But Sam was like, not Sam, y'all. Jax was like, that's okay. We ain't gonna worry about it. Okay? We'll see what happens. The kids seem okay about it, so we gonna be okay. Just try to keep it positive, Lewis, for once. As long as the kids ain't mad at them. So Bill drops the kids off with Kendra. And y'all, he seemed to be getting a little bit closer to getting invited back into the house. Because he done dropped the kids off. He took them to the pier. They done rode on the roller coaster rides. They done got them some stuffed animals. They ate good. He done helped little man with his school project. And he bought oxtails for dinner. And y'all know how much we love oxtails. They are not cheap, especially if they're good. So she was like, okay. And he was like, yeah, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. I'm just trying to meet you halfway. And she looked like she was about ready to go ahead and invite him in, y'all. And she was like, okay, see you. See you, Bill. All right, Bill. I just need to know that you're not going to go back to whatever you did the first time to get put out. So while he's dropping the babies off at the house, y'all, Lewis ends up rolling up on Eddie while he's smoking out back with his homeboys before the show. So he rolled up on him and he was like, hey, man, I'm going to need for you to stay the hell away from my family for good. And Eddie was like, oh, little ninja, your nuts done dropped, huh? What? What makes you think that you can just come up here and talk to me like that? See, I am her father. And he was like, yeah, I know who you are, but you ain't been around this and the third. And he was like, says the person who was bending somebody else over from the PTA committee, PTO committee, and you got her pregnant. What do you mean? And he was like, well, at least I was there. I was like, that's the comeback you got, Lewis. That is not acceptable. Oh, he was like, I don't want you showing up to my house again. And he was like, excuse me, your house? Because see, what I heard was that my daughter takes care of that mortgage. She's the one that's paying the bills right now. She the one that's wearing the big drawers over there. Not you. Now you go ahead and you get home now. You get home now, because that dinner ain't gonna make itself. Y'all, and Lewis walked away with his tail tucked between his legs. How embarrassing. Don't sit up here now. Don't downplay what Lewis be doing at the house. Cause a man that can cook and be in home with the kids. Now, granted, he did get that lady pregnant. But before that, Eddie know too much. He has got to go. That mama is trash for giving him all of that information to use as potential ammo. He know that Lewis ain't gonna be able to do nothing because Jax is so forgiving, right? So forgiving of her parents because you only get one of each, right? That's crazy. And now the kids, he done bribed the kids with a little bit of money and got them a little bit of ice cream, and they're like, oh, we love Grandpa Eddie. This is not gonna end well, y'all. But anywho, so Jax is at home and Daniel done scrolled through these journals, y'all. He ends up calling Jax to tell her what he done found in one of said journals. Now, we still don't know what him and Wendy were arguing about that night that she disappeared, but it seems like he finally stood up for himself to her. Because he was like, out of all the years I was finally able to tell her no. Y'all, we see him getting high by himself, right? And then he said, I had to call Monica over. So Monica comes over and she's got this little short dress on, okay? Thighs out. And she was like, oh, she got pills in hand too. So she walks over to him and she ends up giving him another bong, and she lift up his shirt and start caressing him up under the belt. And I was like, oh, Lord. Ozzie. So seemingly, Monica has been the one that's been abusing Ozzie, but I'm pretty sure that she's not the only one. Now, I don't know if this is the woman that abused him all those years ago. I don't know how long she's been his agent, but she's clearly older than him. I wouldn't think that they would play her that old, right? How old is he supposed to be? He's supposed to be in his 20s, right? So 10? Maybe. I don't know, y'all. But either way, when she raised back up, she undo her dress and she starts stripping and she walk into the bedroom talking about Ozzie, it's time for bed. And that's the way the episode ends, y'all. Ooh, it was a lot. I am so glad that Ozzie found the courage to reveal his deepest, darkest secret to his parents. The more and more you let out, the better you'll feel in the long run. You don't have to be ashamed. You don't have to be embarrassed of what happened. It is not your fault. So I'm glad that he realized that, and I'm glad that his parents did the right thing in the moment and comforted him and reassured him that it was going to be okay, that they would have believed him. So I'm glad that he found the courage to do that. We still need to know a name, though. But who do y'all think killed Wendy? At this point, I don't think it's the mama. I thought it was her for a little bit, but I don't think it's her. I don't think that she would jeopardize what Ozzie got going on because he's feeding the whole family. Maybe Kristen, maybe the sister. Maybe she would do anything to protect him, completely oblivious to the fact that the consequences afterwards, right? But I think it was either her or Monica right now. But y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? You can reach me at Me and You TV Reviews on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also reach me at My TV Reviews Podcast without the S on the end at gmail.com. I love y'all, okay? I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. You guys, please stay safe out there. And until we meet over the airwaves again, I am Mo, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.